Welcome back. We're here with Emily London Miller. We're talking about how to prepare for a photo shoot. And I'm real excited to have you in this episode because I recently did a portrait photo shoot with you, and I experienced something in the preparation that I've never experienced before with any other photographer. So she is the perfect person to learn about this. So I'm real excited for my viewers here to kind of see your process, both because it'll help them prepare if they're going to go for a photo shoot or a video shoot. But I also really like your model of preparation in creating an experience. So kind of the subtle undertone of this video is take notes on how you could create your services or your products or offerings in your business and prepare your clients in a similar way to create that experience. So anyway, let's jump right in. Grab your beauty guide there. I didn't get this up front. I was kind of in a hurry, and I'm like, okay, we got to film with this.
I don't know if I would have given it to you anyway, just because
beauty
your
guide.
beauty guide is a little different.
But as I look through it, a lot of you talked to me about a lot of these things. So
Sure.
I mean, you talk about how do you want to introduce this to?
Okay, so this is basically a conversational resource for me.
Okay.
So I can have a consultation with my clients, and I can go through all of the bullet points in this guide and then send them home with my client. But at the end of the day, it's about the conversation. So I'm not going to just mail these to somebody and like hope for the best, hope that they read it. They probably won't. But I'm going to be guiding them. So one of the things that I tell my clients all the time, or that I tell mentoring clients who are also photographers, is that one of my main jobs is to hold space for my client, especially because my transformational, what I'm really selling is a transformation. And so if I want to give that client a transformation, it starts with the early conversations, with telling them to set their intentions. How do you want to see yourself? Versus, and then holding them through the steps. How would you like to be dressed to show those sides of yourself? And then once it gets down to, okay, the immediate preparation before the shoot, this isn't about checking off all of the things on the checklist. There are like 3 things that I always tell them are like, you must do these 3 things, but everything else in this checklist, which is kind of comprehensive, is more about giving permission to invest time and love and attention on yourself for just a few weeks before a photo shoot. And so giving them that opportunity to hold, like I'm holding space for that time and love and attention. So at the end of the experience, when they look back on the whole process, a lot of my clients even say like, oh, it was the getting ready and all that. And it's like, I wasn't even there when they were getting ready, but they associated those good feelings with me. So they walked out with those feelings. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
So the 3 things that are essential, you must do. Get your nails done. And I even made you do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to just have it manicured. I usually recommend to my girl clients that they have a neutral nail polish. And then to have your hair color touched up. Not something that I had you do. Nope. And obviously that only applies if they color their hair. And then the other super critical thing is to create the space for 8 hours of sleep the night before the shoot. And I say it that way specifically because I used to get people who were like, I couldn't sleep for 8 hours. I was so nervous that I wasn't sleeping that I stayed up all night being nervous that I couldn't sleep. And so I said, it counts. Just closing your eyes in bed with no electronics on, that counts. So the space, as long as you had enough time for the 8 hours of sleep where you were just quietly in bed, that's good enough. So
a couple of things that I want to comment on. So you talked about getting your nails done or having a manicure. Prior to that, I'd never had a manicure in my life, and I don't know that I was really intending on it. But then I was getting a smoothie. There was a nail, and I'm like, I'm right here. I might as well. It's karma or whatever. So I went in, and I really, as I look at the photos, I've never even looked at my hands to see if you could even tell. But one thing that you mentioned earlier is kind of the preparation. Because I had taken that step and other suggestions that you'd given me, I put more priority on the photo shoot itself, because I'm like, okay, I'm preparing for this. I'm going to do this, and I've done this, and this. And I show up for the photo shoot. And so, yeah, I'd had a lot of even just mental preparation to be there. That's kind of interesting.
Very cool. It's like you're investing in the experience, even, on your own time, whether that's with the money that it took to do the manicure itself or the time, right? So.
Okay. But I know our viewers are going to want some of the practical step-by-step things. So what are some
Okay.
of the main things that you suggest people do to prepare?
All right, so honestly, the first thing that I tell them to do is that they really need to set their appointments with anybody that they're going to be doing
Okay.
any kind of beauty treatment with, right? So for women, it's a little bit different than men. That looks like where, are you going to get your brows done? The timing is kind of important for that kind of stuff, right? If you do it too early, then your brows are hairy again. And if you do it too close to the shoot, then you might have redness or swelling. So I do give an outline of timing that basically says the first thing that we take care of can be about 3 weeks ahead of time. That's where you start drinking lots of water regularly, start getting really refreshed on your own skincare routine that you know you should be doing or you already do, and to set your intentions for how you're going to show up for your shoot and make your appointments. Okay. The 3 week mark is where you have your deadline for your shopping, especially if you're shopping online, and where I start asking people to stay out of the sun. Red skin can be really, really horrible on camera, and because it kind of makes your hair look green on camera. The camera has to choose which is correct, and so if it's going to choose your skin is correct, then your hair will look green. So that's one thing I say: no sunburns, stay out of the sun the 3 weeks before the shoot. And to start stretching, but that's not necessarily the case for every photo shoot. I do recommend it for my shoots because I do a lot of head, back, neck, and lower lumbar region kind of stretching with my shoots. So I don't want my clients to be uncomfortable beforehand. Obviously, it's more for the self-care aspect of taking the time to stretch for 20 minutes every day. Okay. 1 week before the shoot is when we start getting into, that's when you want to have your brows waxed, maybe your upper lip waxed. Any body hair that you're going to be removed. Yeah, don't wax yours. With women, depending on how revealing their clothing is, they may want their legs to be waxed or their underarms, or it depends on the woman. And then at the 1 week mark, I do tell people to cut off spray tans. For me, a lot of people with spray tans will get crud in their knuckles and knees and stuff like that. So that gives enough time for all that to kind of wipe off or wash off. 3 to 5 days before the shoot, that's where we talk about getting your hair color refreshed. While you're there, you might as well get a little trim in your haircut. And you can have your hairstylist do a gloss treatment or a deep conditioning treatment on your hair, which is going to make it look really fabulous during the shoot. Okay. In Utah, it's really popular to have false or lash extensions. And so if you already have them, I always tell my clients to make sure to get them refreshed that 3 to 5 days before the shoot. And if they don't already have them, I usually don't encourage them to, because we use fake lashes in the studio. Okay. The day before the shoot and the photo shoot day probably have the most intensive instructions. And that's where I'm talking to my clients about cleaning your wedding ring and making sure that you have your manicure, your brows are tweezed, you're gonna get a blowout for your hair. And then the morning of the shoot, it's like I want them to show up with a fresh face, so clean, moisturized skin, clean, dry hair. We do the styling for them in the studio, but if you weren't going to have a hair and makeup artist on set in your own photo shoot, then obviously I would recommend styling your hair completely to the point that you'd like for your photos, with maybe a little extra volume. And then to do your makeup. One of the things with makeup, if you're doing it on your own, that I always tell my makeup artists as a rule, is to never use shimmer. Because shimmer on camera translates not as well as you might think. Certainly glitter is terrible. But shimmer for anybody who's over probably 30 is going to emphasize everything that maybe you don't want to emphasize. So I always say use matte products for your skin. And then,
quick question: you mentioned jewelry, and I remember I did something. You had me do something.
You can use a toothbrush and toothpaste.
That's what it was,
to clean your wedding ring.
I brushed my ring.
Yeah, and in fact, like I did last night, I was going to be doing this shoot. I took it off, I cleaned it, and then I put it in a pouch to bring with me on the day of, because the morning of the shoot, you're also going to be like moisturizing your entire body, anything that's going to be visible at least. And so I didn't want to put lotion back in my ring, so I saved it for when right before we got here. So yeah, basically the key things for the morning of, that you've had your sleep, you have a really good breakfast, and that you are going to arrive on time to your photo shoot, because lighting is a big deal, and if your photographer uses natural light, that's going to be pretty important.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I hope that's given you a lot of practical advice on how you could prepare for your photo shoot. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
So after watching an episode like this, I'm sure everyone wants to work with you now as a photographer. So where do they go?
So I'm at emilylondonportraits.com, or you can find me on Instagram at emilylondonportraits.
Yeah, you're gonna really love her portfolio, seeing the work that you've done. Pretty amazing. Be sure to subscribe if you're on YouTube, or if you're on LinkedIn, go ahead and follow me because I'm posting out regular videos like this every day.
Yeah.